going on, yo? Can you hear me? Are we ready to rock tonight? I'm just waiting on Sam. I was running a little bit behind myself. I was listening to his stream, but I'd already heard it. Uh yeah. Looks like we have a contestant from backstage. I want to say something real quick. Yeah, I've seen and people have asked me to unback Haystack. Haystack is not banned for going at Ed. Haystack was on his second chance. He's banned for fucking annoying me in comments all the time. That's why he's banned.
Well, I
Can you
thought
guys
I'd
hear
put
me?
it. I thought I'd put in a good word for him anyway. But look, haystack is haystack. So I'm Bill. He got it. He got a couple of his beatings in on you in my channel. So hopefully that will satiate him.
I'm sure he did. But he's not banned for going at Ed. He's banned for annoying me. I don't know if he has daddy issues or what the deal is.
Well, so yeah, I wanted to have this conversation with you to expand upon what we just heard, which was my focus comments about my relationship with Edward and my thoughts about the new information that had been released. I'm, the fact that the panel channel did this follow up on this case was pretty exemplary, and this the fact that hearing that the fact that she had checked upon that Richard's case is closed, and understood that meant that potentially the state would open up the records. I'm not exactly sure what the fact that the investigation being active and ongoing had to do with releasing the current case's information. So once the government makes a charging decisions, and I'm not a lawyer, so I know that people want to harass me, but I'm not an idiot. I'm not a lawyer, but the state made a charging decision from the attorney general's office, and conceivably the only reason why we have access to any of these records is the fact that the brother Richard had tried to take the weapon of an officer, not from Polk County, but from the attorney general's office investigatory arm. So that is the reason, that's sort of the nexus, because if the government opens an investigation and closes it with no charges, I'm not sure that you actually can request those information, because it's really not, I don't know. There's no real case. Is there a case that you could request? So potentially the only reason why we have a window into even this case and how it came about was the fact that the brother tried to take someone, because the original charges, the original investigation was open because of the NCMEC tip to the Attorney General's office. And they began this investigation. And here's the odd thing about this, the timelines here. Someone maybe with law enforcement, we might need to get a community, we may need to get a pro bono community. Bill, I think it's time we all chipped in for a pro bono community lawyer to help us with the various legal problems. Instead of running a cocaine fund, I think you should run a legal bill fund for to have sort of a retainered attorney to the community, so that we all could have sort of pepper them with questions about how this stuff works. But and I have everything right in front
there
of me.
are people in the community that have been to law school, and you know one of them I'm talking about. They just don't want to. They want to stay behind the scenes. I don't blame them for not wanting to stick their necks out, but yeah, they tell me things every now and then.
So just keeping this focus on this case and my thoughts about it with this information that was released, that again, someone somewhere had. So the government has it and ties it up for 4 years. This very important information. I mean, you would think that if the attorney general considered, and it seemingly they did, that, this house was engaged in this kind of criminal activity, why they would withhold these documents from the community for so long. And I think it's interesting that people want to come back to the government and say it's like having the criminal investigate them, having the, it's sort of like self-generated exams of your own mistakes. It's like, it's like what they did in that movie Breach or whatever, when they put the FBI agent who was selling secrets, I guess, to the Russians. I forgot the Robert Hansen. They put Robert Hansen in head of finding the traitor within the FBI and all the secrets. And it's like they put him in charge of finding who the mole was, and he was the mole, and he was the traitor. So it's like having the government come back and say, why'd you fuck up? Now make it right. Getting them to admit that they fucked up. And clearly there's fuck ups here because there are gaps in I guess what could be termed investigatory gaps. There's investigatory gaps
here. I don't really agree with you that the only reason we know anything about it is because his brother grabbed for the gun. They were there with a search warrant, and I don't know why they weren't charged with the CP right off the bat, but I'm not a lawyer either, but I do know from kind of working in that field is if they go for a search warrant and they're looking for one specific thing, say they went there to search for CP. If drugs wasn't on that warrant, but they were in plain sight, then the cops can arrest them for that. If drugs weren't on the search warrant and they happen to find them, then their lawyer would have a case to have that thrown out. But I think that they would have been in trouble whether his brother grabbed for the gun or not, because they both got charged with drugs. It was just that his brother got the extra charge.
The drug charges came from Polk County and the Polk County Sheriff's Office. And prosecutors in Polk County prosecuted a separate case that involved the drugs. A number of people I'm aware of reached out to Polk County and said, give us the information to this case. And it's an ongoing case. It can't be released. It was, no. That search warrant is not our search warrant. That search warrant is tied to case number CX 21000285565. So Polk County would not have released a search warrant affidavit for a case that they weren't the ones executing the search warrant from. The search warrant was drafted by not Polk County Sheriff, not Polk County prosecutors. Search warrant was drafted by the Texas Attorney General's office and their detective. So, if you want to go to Polk County and try to get this search warrant, you won't get it, which is why Predcatcher Drama went to the Attorney General's office for the search warrant and all the documents, because that's the case where the search warrant basically promulgated from, right? So you would have gotten, even now, I mean, if you go to Polk County now and say the case is closed with Ed and his case, show me the search warrant on why you were at his doorstep, they would say, oh, that's not even our search warrant. That's the Attorney General's office. Go ask them. So the reason why there was a charge in the case, what I'm saying is there was a potential that all of this could have been hidden from the Attorney General's office if they had never charged. This case number is because there was ultimately a charge and now a completion of a case, in my opinion. And again, certainly entitled to disagree, and certainly you have more experience with this than I do. So, but looking at the investigatory gaps is what I'm curious about. January of 2019, this tip comes in from NCMEC, given not to Polk County, but given to the Attorney General's office, child exploitive arm. They investigate it and start pinging the various tech companies for subpoenas regarding account holders information in February and March. Okay. So February and March, Dropbox, Google, and Facebook, some of these come in after even the initial request, turn over subscriber information where February and March of 2019, the Attorney General's office has a good idea of who the suspect or suspects are, and a house and a location provided by EastX cable company, whatever, the internet provider. So they've got an idea of who they're dealing with. They look up the names of the residents of that house. What happens from March 2019 until January of 2020? So about a 9-month investigatory gap, essentially. What happens in the case? There's a block in time on the incident. It basically doesn't update us.
Well, that's why I believe, and I've seen nothing that says this. I feel like they worked out some kind of deal, and that's why there are so many gaps. But whoever they worked out the deal with could only hide so much.
Right.
I mean, there's got to be way more body camera video, and the video we got didn't really show a whole lot.
March 2019, essentially, the detective who gets the complaint has all the information he needs to draft a search warrant affidavit for this house and this property. He doesn't draft it until January of 2020. And then they execute this. Okay, so they wait almost a year. They wait a year to go in and execute the search warrant. Confusing. I would ask that from the detective why you waited an entire year. Then you start getting the results, the fruits of the search warrant, right? And the fruits of the search warrant are all these devices. And obviously it takes some time to do an analysis of, through various investigatory means. But essentially the investigator puts here by 2021, 6 months after, or 9 months after he gets a report saying, okay, on this one device, the cell phone that's definitively linked to Ed, has these 3 images on it. So mid 2020, late 2020, investigators have the evidence to make a charging decision. Why didn't they? They're not associated with Polk County. They had nothing to do with the drugs. That was Polk County's deal. Polk County's the one that found the drugs, their sheriff's detectives, assisting the Attorney General's office with the raid. Where does the original investigators come in and say, okay, we've got this one cell phone in which we've got this content on it. We're now going to file a charge against Ed. They wait 2021. They wait 2022. And then they wait 2023. Why? Why is there this investigatory timeline gap? Why are they waiting? Yet again, another large gap of time. And then conceivably, and this is where this community, I don't know if they forgot about the evidence, but I'm sure that in the spring of 2023, a number of people reach out to this detective in the Attorney General's office and say, hey, what's going on with this case? I'm guessing. Although if you speak with the Attorney General's research, the public records with not many people requested these documents. In fact, of the 6 people that requested them, so for everybody out there bragging that they did, again, this points to some people talking a big game and then people actually doing the research. And there's a few people in this community that actually go down and do the work, do the ground level work. And the panel channel was one of them.
Well, I know Matt actually drove to wherever he had to drive to get some body cam footage.
Oh yeah, that was after. I'm not diminishing.
But you're right. I have like I heard Sabi on somebody's clip channel somewhere. I don't remember. I heard her speaking on it, and what she was saying was bullshit, man. I mean, yeah, I that woman is a liar and a gaslighter. I've been saying it for a while, and I'm saying it now. Don't believe a damn thing she says. But anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to show you this. So people talking this, I'm gonna go show you this. Can you let me share my screen?
Yeah. Damn it. Come on. All right. Nothing's popping up yet.
Well, hold on. Let me get this. And I just want to show you what the response is. And for those that know, they know. And that's probably PCD and the panel channel. I'm curious if anyone else. I mean, everybody is up in arms. And I'm not I'm not saying, look at all you talking a big internet game, but who actually puts in the work to actually go get the records. Well, I was one of the people that tried to do it. So, and essentially what I wanted to find out was not, I wanted to know if Edward himself or his brother had requested these documents prior to their release on July 20th.
Oh. Have you got something up there yet? Because I'm not seeing anything on my end.
Okay, can you see
There we
anything
go.
now?
We're good. Yep.
All right. So if you can see that, you can see the fact that this is, and for those experienced panel channel PCD who are, we can provide requests of those copies. Received 6 total requests. 3 of those were requests from you. Do you want your requests as well? So for everybody who was so interested in this case for a year or more, I'm 50% of the requests made since January 1 of 2024, which is odd to me, right? Because again, it's like the incident, and I'm not bringing up, Ryan, sort of the drive-by Ryaning, where he wants to report something. He is so concerned about CSAM on locked server that he doesn't even do any follow-up on where the investigation stands. It's just the hypocrisy. If you want to take things to real life and the real world, have 10 minutes of your day. Don't just do it for internet clout. Do it for the actual cause that you allegedly believe in. And so I just want to point out that half the requests that came in for these documents were from me. And presumably the other requests were from panel channel. And I was doing it. I want to see if Ed got these documents and he had known that his brother's case was over and he went and requested these documents and had them at some point in the past that is relevant for my understanding of where his pathology exists, I guess you could say. So, and the fact that, I was sort of waffling on the apology, I was wrong on many levels. And I think that people wanted me to be, I guess, a leader in accepting that responsibility for defending someone who didn't deserve to be defended and someone who wouldn't provide a defense for himself. And the fact that you would see panel after panel. Now, mind you, Edward never actually asked me or I believe anyone else to go on the defense for him. That was something that I think we all developed on our own. I didn't have meetings with Ed early on to say, okay, here, let's plan a defense for you. I just did it out of my own loyalty and sense of due process. And it got to the point of being absurd, right? And I think that most people point the 100% innocent. How could anyone, the Pope is, you can't say is 100% in, particularly the Pope, let's say, is 100% innocent. And we treated this defense of Edward more than anyone in this community ever would have gotten the benefit of the doubt. And certainly Edward would not have provided this defense for any one of us. I can assure you of that. In fact, he would probably hold the first dragging panel learning of this information. And, and there's just some establishing the timeline for me and my relationship with Ed, because I'm not inclined to gossip in public about, things that people tell me or things that I know. But from early on, when Cam recorded my phone call with him illegally, who was in a private StreamYard listening to that prior to it being released? All these people supposedly hate each other. Cam presents this phone call with him when I was bad-mouthing Ray in a private StreamYard. Who listens to it? Edward, PHI, Red Hood, Cam are all there together. Sort of
I'll let you know that I think I told you already. I don't remember, but Cam sent it to me too, and I told him not to put it out there. Obviously, he didn't listen.
Sure. Well, what's new? Cam didn't listen. What's new? It's sort of the story of community life. But, Edward didn't tell me or Ray that he had heard this phone call. And mind you, he's planning on coming on this trip. And it's like, that was an initial, if you talk about side eye, like what? Why wouldn't you tell us that Cam had recorded me illegally, and you wait until Cam releases it to the masses so that I get dragged through the mud because of my honest thoughts about some people and maybe some exaggerations to make Cam feel better about himself, which is kind of a hard thing to do. So, but PHI was there too. And mind you, PHI was already planning on, she had claimed during that time in which she's in a private StreamYard with Edward listening to my phone call with Cam that was illegally recorded. PHI is there already knowing, I believe, she had claimed.
I want to clear something up. I was not in a private StreamYard with any of them about that. Cam just sent it to me, and I didn't even listen to the whole thing, and I told him he was stupid if he put it out there. And next thing I know, he's putting it out there.
So it's like PHI and Ed hate each other so much, and they're so not into the drama that they end up in a private StreamYard together, listening to my voice illegally recorded, talking to Cam, not even trashing Ray. Oh, big deal. I said, Ray's an attention whore. Oh my God, what a big surprise. Shocker. Ray's an attention whore. And that was very odd to me. Another thing that so then we had in the summer, Ed had, his wife had released long ago this blog about their relationship. And I was always of the opinion that there's two sides to every story, and Ed's not required to give a rebuttal, but she alleges a number of things there that paint a very horrible picture of a husband, a father. I mean, this is someone that seemingly, from her words, abandoned his family, probably because he was into these destructive drugs. And so I took that to heart. I didn't say anything publicly. I thought it was odd that a number of people sort of passed over it that were Ed's friends, that didn't really take it to heart. I did take it to heart. And I think it was very, very ridiculous that you heard, and I think that Vic made a mistake in putting out her voice over and over again, which I don't think she approved of. And that was a big traumatic mistake of someone who had clearly poured her heart out to someone on the internet that she didn't know. And I think that the good guy, and that was a whole weird thing that he had contacted her, but okay, you contact someone's wife and you get their opinion. But I did listen to it. I read everything she had to say, and I listened to what she had to say. And I didn't say anything. I didn't bash Ed publicly for being what she portrays as a scumbag, a cold-hearted scumbag. So I'm going to try to keep focused, but the fact of the matter is, this isn't about Jason Fellows and his CSAM. It's not about that. You know, I mean, we constantly work in this community based on deflections and based on whataboutisms. And I'm finally coming to, when I say I want to take accountability and take responsibility, I'm going to stay laser focused on some things. And for me, that's stay laser focused on the topic at hand, which is, this is me. I don't have a relationship with Jason Fellows. Jason Fellows didn't directly lie to me. Jason Fellows didn't leave me and many others on the battlefield defending him while someone sat back and watched it all happen. And I wasn't forced to do it. That's the even more bizarre thing. I wasn't forced at gunpoint to do it. I did it out of my own sense of loyalty that was not earned, and it wasn't deserved. That's the other thing that I regret. I'm a tremendously loyal person for someone I had just met on the internet. And he didn't earn my loyalty. He didn't deserve my loyalty, but I gave it to him. And, you know, I have invested in this community. People want to slime me left and right about my donations. My donations have impacted, like everybody that gives, whether you give $5 or $500, your donations impact the lives of those people that are out trying to catch predators. It's hard. It's nasty work. And predator catchers are not perfect people by any measure, and they should be held accountable for their behavior. They should not be put on a pedestal of being a hero. But the fact of the matter is, they deserve to make income so that they can continue doing their work. And so, you know, I put this, and you can say what my motives were, and that's fine. And you can continue to it was for attention, and it's to draw attention. Yeah, it was something to draw attention that's important to me. I see thousands and thousands.
While we're on this subject, I see people saying, well, you ignored red flags, and I see some of the same people that fuck with clowns saying that. So until you dump his ass in the dirt, you really got no room to talk. All right, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and Bill, you have every right to say that, but I'm here to stand before this community, even though I don't have to, even though I don't really want to take my beatings. I deserve to be beat. I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I made a series of dumb, illogical, irrational statements. I put my neck out on the line for someone over the internet that I probably wouldn't even put out in my real life, someone close to me, to defend a whole household of people that I really didn't know. And I think it's a little bizarre for people to be doing victory laps when they learned that there was this demonic material on somebody's servers and cloud and circulating in someone's home and then found on someone's device. I think that's strange, but I'm not going to. I think that's strange. I think that was the wrong. That was the wrong approach. Some people did it, some people didn't. But as difficult as it is for me to say, Ryan has every right to go on a victory lap. He has every right to go on a victory lap. I hate to say it. I'll never say it again.
I don't agree.
I cannot stand him, but he has a right. He has stayed from the get-go. Every time he had a chance to question Ed, he did it. He didn't ever get chummy with Edward like so many did. He never heard, to make new friends, to reacquaint himself with old friends because he was kicked out of this group, so he needed that group. Bill, the fact is, Ryan stayed relatively consistent through all of this. Did he not?
Yes, he did, but it wasn't because he had some kind of inside information, he just did it because he didn't like Ed. That's the only reason. Ryan only presses the red button for people that he doesn't like. It's not like he was doing it out of any real sense of justice. It was just another thing to throw at him. He does the same shit to me. So that's why I disagree, respectfully.
But even, and I know that your position on Haystack has from the start, and even though I don't like Cap, and we have this, and I don't necessarily, I just have observed him. He's never really liked me, and that, I guess, has bled over to me not really liking him for whatever reason. But I've, observed him. I don't like his sort of moving with the crowd. He really doesn't have that much of a spine, in my opinion, but, it is what it is. I'm not going to, this is not dragging anyone. It's just
Haystack is not banned for going at Ed.
No,
he was unbanned for that. He was on a second chance. He's banned, and he knows this. It's not for.
But looking at Haystack and Cap, even though I say they did have, even when it became uncool to continue down. I made the statement that Cap's channel was dead, and I was mocking that fact. And Haystacks was, these two of them remain generally consistent, and I think that they deserve credit for being consistent. That on this issue, they didn't move with the masses. They had been relatively anti-Edward since they found out about this, and Haystack, to a certain degree, never really liked Ed even before this. So, I mean, Haystack could be considered one of the most consistent people in the community, and because he had observed him operate and didn't like what he saw. And Cap, who sometimes I think doesn't have a spine, on this issue with Ed, even when it became uncool and unpopular back in the late spring and early summer, with all these people flooding over and everybody becomes one big happy family again. And this desire to restore the old order of the community. So people sacrifice their principles. They sacrifice their positions that they took earlier. I mean, my God, and again, you get in this, but I mean, I remember Damone giving Bube a hard time for telling Ed Merry Christmas in December. And, I flip out, and that's why I sort of flip out in April, May. Now Damone's in chat. Now he's modded. Now he's, and that wasn't just Damone, and I'm not picking on him, and it's not even right to bring. I wanted to avoid in my statement, and I think I did a pretty good job of avoiding bringing other people in because they aren't CP suspects. They didn't have.
Yeah. Damone's another example of somebody that I unbanned.
And so it's hard for me. It's like we are owed some type of explanation to be put forward. And I know that people are concerned about, why were you even? I gave Ed every opportunity. They were both a wellness check. Condemn me. Here I stand. Persecute me. Prosecute me. I put in wellness checks. It wasn't for 2 weeks later. It was for 48 hours after was the third phone call. I'm sorry that
you're not the only one. You're not the only one either. I've said this on here before. I've repeatedly asked people to not give people that are silent a hard time. Some of them, their only reason for being in this so-called community was to defend Edward. And now that they can't do that anymore, they're more or less gone. So that's kind of understandable. And you're not the only one that was worried he was going to do something to himself. And I understand that. I feel I have a lot of blood on my hands, as I say. Not because I feel like I'm responsible for people killing themselves, but I feel like I could have done more to stop it. Now, at the end of the day, though, to me, he's just another Chomo. But I can understand why somebody wouldn't want that on their conscience.
And, I had spent more than a year thinking about this case, trying to figure out, trying to put together a reasonable explanation. But why was it me? Why was it us? If you're fucking innocent, you be the one to go make the case. And so you had this portrayal of, by his wife, of not being a good husband or a father. You had the mix of drugs, which I can understand why drugs are a desensitizer, and alcohol. And I'm not a teetotaler.
I'm on drugs right now.
Well, I'm not a teetotaler totally, but I think that they desensitize people. And I'm not saying that it's an excuse that if, that it's a valid excuse, that if it's not. In fact, you do something like this, you hurt someone else and you're on drugs, I'm going to punish you more than someone who's sober. That's just the way I look at it. So I think that drugs are a way for people to, and alcohol, and I've got people in my life that I love and care about that have had alcohol problems and substance abuse problems. And the excuse, and this is why, Jeff to a certain degree bothers me, that he's not going to be invited on my channel. He doxed some people on my channel. I banned him and I won't talk to him. And you've stayed to that. Come back sober.
Yeah.
Come back sober. But we enjoy seeing, a lot of people enjoy seeing this train wreck. And I mean, they're entitled to, if people want to live this selfish,
The thing is, though, is I'm not letting Jeff get away with the intoxication defense, because he has always been this way. He's always been a liar. He's always liked to act like he knew shit that he doesn't know. It's just that the alcohol, it just intensifies it, and not really all that much. He's always been this way. It's just the difference now is he passes out midstream. And I've never, maybe a couple of times, but generally I don't let Jeff up here at all. I usually have a thing where if we're talking shit about somebody, I'll let him up, even if they're not normally welcome here, but I'm not even going to give him that respect.
Well, I can't stand I didn't remember what I did. To prevent me from bubbling over with anger with someone, you just withdraw from that relationship. If you can't remember what you did, that doesn't fucking excuse your behavior at all. And so that's that. And this is something that getting distracted now with the question. Look, I think that there's a possibility, not a probability, there's a possibility that Edward could have a defense. He needs to provide it. I'm not going to provide it. And this is where, what could Ed have possibly said to you that could make anything? I'm not going to go into what the possibilities are, because it would look like I'm providing. If there is a possibility, he should provide it. If he's claiming that he's innocent after this report says that he's guilty and I would convict him, he should provide it. I think there's a possibility, not probability, possibility, but I'm not going down that road, right? Because that gets into, if there is, I was open to listening to him, and I'll listen to him now. I'm open to listening to him. People want to, I'm always going to listen to someone, what they have to say, whether they burn up in flames or they provide something reasonable. And this is where we may disagree on the Clown Force, not disagree, but I listened to what Clown had to say, and he said that, why did this potentially, you're claiming that these allegations weren't true. Okay. I believe that it was a bad breakup with this girlfriend at the time. And I think that she had poisoned the mind of this child into saying some things that weren't true. That's Clown's defense. I listened to it. I'm not going to hold and say, I believe, it's my opinion he's guilty, and I'm not going to listen to anything he has to say. That is a closed-minded way to look at it. Now, one could say it's all bullshit. Clown's full of shit. And I'll listen to what you have to say on that too.
Yeah, but the other things he said about taking a whatever 14-year-old in the bathroom and effing her in the A and then saying shit about a 3-year-old. I don't care if it was out of anger. I say some fucked up things on here, but my mind never goes to fucking children for shock value or out of anger. That's the kind of shit that's in his head. You know what I mean? And it comes out. Sometimes we're more honest when we're angry.
Well, I mean, we've seen, I think that a number of people that have been accused of things in this community have said things in the heat of the moment that were clearly a pejorative, that were basically
Oh,
said,
sure.
fine,
Absolutely.
if you
And
want
I
to,
do
if you
that.
want to,
I do that myself.
yeah.
But if your mind goes to kids, that's just a hard no for me.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Bill. I'm just saying that I'm not willing to say that Clown is therefore guilty of these heinous accusations that were dropped by the state because he made some sus statements that seemingly poor point. Clown might be a pervert. And I mean, he might be a lot of things, and he may be guilty of the accusation. Maybe it was true and the girl was scared, but he provided a defense that I thought was reasonable and rational, and people can decide to believe it or not. And you can factor in the fact that he made a lot of suspect statements over the course of him being these revelations to occur. Here's a big, big secret that everybody should know now. If you don't want to be hit with big surprises that you know about in your own life, you either should prepare for some possible defenses in a rational, reasonable way, rather than be putting in the position that, so for instance, Ed knew this was going on. Clown knew this was going on. These things could easily come up in this community. Put them out there and explain it. I think that people would have an open mind more, I think, if people were honest with some of these. And I'm not saying every single thing you've done, but certainly as it relates to kids or CSAM, and you're in this community, being open and honest with people from the get-go. Don't make people dig. Don't make them dig into your background. Just come out and say it if you've got these lingering.
Clown has doxed a few people, including myself. Like it's the totalitarian, yeah, blah, whatever of his actions.
It's the totality, the gestalt. I like to use it.
Yeah, gestalt. That's overall, a good word.
Which I was corrected, by the way.
Like how he relentlessly went after Junie. It's yeah. I just can't. I can't rock with
it. But anyway, I don't want to get down the track of, because I want to keep this focused really on Ed and this entire ordeal. And it's like, and I want to, this search warrant. Where the fuck was this search warrant? Come on, Ed. You fucking had this search warrant, affidavit for search warrant. Your brother had it. Your mother had it. You had it. And here's a little secret. I didn't say a fucking thing about it. It pissed me off too. I had my DUI.
Well, speaking of Ed not responding, right? It might have been the next day, but shortly after the big document drop, I texted him and I said, "Do you have anything to say?" And he's never gotten back with me.
Well, and it's like I think that. I mean, and here back to the Jamie thing, I'm willing to listen for a possible defense. I'm willing to listen. I've been part of this and wrapped up in this for a year. Now, mind you, find a statement that I was going hard in the paint after September, October of 2023. They can't find it. And that's a reasonable position, MasterCard. I'm not saying that's an unreasonable position. And I think that we should have approached that from the Ed CP suspect from the start too. If people think he can go fuck off, he shouldn't be in this community. The fact that I went so hard in the paint so early on, and people want to regurgitate my previous comments made a year ago or more. And this is sort of I own it. I'm responsible for it. I said it. I get it. I should have to come to terms with it. I should take my beatings. I'm here to take my beatings. What are my consequences? Lay them out for me. What should my consequences be for? No one, in my opinion, my delayed response here didn't jeopardize an investigation, didn't put any children at risk. My early defense of due process, that's up. The investigators had no access to anybody online saying this bullshit. So I'm glad that my defense of due process and going hard in the paint for Edward, it didn't put any children at risk. It put people in who ended up being correct. And I would say there was a general luck to it. Okay. Ryan and Cap and people can take a victory lap, and I think they deserve to be able to take a victory lap. I don't think that they should be excited that there was actual CSAM found. I held a genuine good faith. On good faith, I made these defenses. It wasn't bad faith. Edward didn't call me and say, bro, I'm guilty of all this shit. Bro, my brother's guilty of all this stuff. Go out and defend me. That would have been bad faith defenses. I made a good faith defense of due process, going hard in the paint for Edward, based on my genuine feeling that the government made a mistake here. Ended up, they did make a mistake on a different level. They made a mistake, and there was no CSAM found when there was. There was tons of it found on the cloud. I don't believe any of the CSAM that was initially in the cloud that flagged the investigation was found on any of the devices. I don't believe the 3 images that was directly tied to Ed was documented in the initial affidavit for search warrant from the Dropbox or Google or Facebook Messenger.
That reminds me of something else. I was talking to someone privately, and Ed told them that he's never had a Dropbox, and I know that's bullshit, because back in the day when him and I were working with Blue, that was what she used to transfer files to us. So I know that Ed had it, and when I did my one and only catch, I had all the chat logs on a Dropbox, and that was how I showed it to people. So he told somebody that he never had a Dropbox, and I know that that's bullshit too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I do think that there were some tactical mistakes that people made when this came out. I think that, yeah, there were those of us that defended Edward. Yes, we were wrong to do so. I made some completely ridiculous, not able to ever, 100% innocent. You can never, ever say that someone's 100% innocent with that certainty other than yourself. And going forward, I will only be defending myself. I ain't going to put myself on the line for this going forward. And if you want me to learn what the consequences are for me, I've learned a ton from all of this. If that's what everybody wants, it's what I want out of it. I made a series of mistakes. I'm wrong. I don't owe everybody an apology. I issued the one apology to the YouTube channel that I thought deserved it, and a shout out to a YouTube channel that I thought was digging. As someone who likes public records myself, as I read a ton of criminal cases, I like true crime. I go through, I've seen in my research and reading cases, that document, that search warrant, is not a surprise to me. Unfortunately, I have seen write-ups of CSAM before. That wasn't new to read that. It's always the same, disgusting and shocking and devastating to have to read it. And I feel bad for the investigators that have to watch it. But I also, some of them may not be the perfect people too. There was a special agent in charge of ICE back in the day, and Anthony Mangione in Miami. He was a special agent in charge of ICE that investigated CSAM. Was caught with troves of it, of it on his own devices in his own personal residence. So not to. For the most part, I think these investigators have a nasty line of work. I mean, it's like going into war and seeing the shit from war. How do you watch this kind of stuff, and then go home at night and see your kids and pretend like you didn't see anything? I don't know, and be with your family. But I don't understand how this case gets delayed and delayed and delayed, and there's these investigatory gaps. And then this detective pawns it off on the Houston Homeland Security 4.5 years after the initial NCMEC tip, 3.5 years after he's had it on his desk. The search warrant, he searches in January 2020. And in October of 2023, an investigation that he was in charge of, that he initiated through the NCMEC tip, that he overseen all the evidence collection, all the subpoenas, and then he says, oh, I did all of this, but here, federal government, you take my case that I investigated. Why? We know that the statutes of limitations is 7 years. So I think there's a little bit in the when you can charge someone based upon when when the evidence was obtained through a search warrant, right? I think there was a different statute. I think there's a different statute. I don't know, Bill. I think you were talking about that. We've talked about that too, about how potentially, there's 7 years from bringing charges on a statute of limitations, but there's an even narrower window for what evidence you can use obtained through a search warrant, and that shrinks the statute, I believe.
Dead Twist, go take a nap. I don't feel like dealing with the bullshit tonight. Yeah, Big Moose does have a point, though. Sam, can you answer this? Do you think, and I've thought about this, do you think that if COVID did not happen, Ed would have been charged? I've thought about that, but I still think that the detective or somebody, I shouldn't say the detective because I don't really know. I don't want to make accusations. Worked a deal, and I've seen cops do this kind of thing before, and prosecutors. Like sometimes they can't just outright drop a charge, but they will finagle things in a way that makes it impossible for them to prosecute it. And that's how they get away sometimes with making deals with people that have done horrible things to get at bigger people. And I don't know that that's what happened. That's just my theory.
No, I don't think it has anything to do with. And Dead Twist, go take a nap. I think it'd be good for you. The fact is that I think that it would have been delayed had it been charged. I think you saw amount of delays with when a case gets to court, but this never got to court, right? This never got to court. I mean, the gun trying to take an officer's weapon got to court.
Well, the CP was never even charged that we know of.
There was no delays in the investigation. They were getting subpoena responses within a month or two. I don't see like COVID, the judge has a full docket, and we were going to put this hearing out 3 months, 7 months. There were no charges. What was the delay? The tech companies had responded, Kik and Dropbox and Google and Facebook had responded in a relatively quick pace. I mean, I don't understand. Like, when did he finds out, the investigator finds out In January 22nd, 2021, Sergeant Marquis received a complete digital forensic report from Sergeant St. James of the Attorney General's Digital Forensics Unit. This report is marked as item number 21 with the property section. Okay. January.
Well, I do know that COVID did slow pretty much all the courts down. You know, it took longer to get things in front of judges, or whatever, because some court, and I don't know about theirs, but some courthouses were completely shut down for a while in the beginning. And then they would only allow so many people in at a time, or start doing things by Zoom. So I don't necessarily think that's what happened here, but it did. It slowed a lot of things down court-wise.
Well, I mean, this wasn't even in court, though, Bill. January, here it is.
No, but they have to go to see a judge to get warrants and that kind of thing, and then they were juggling it between agencies.
No, they weren't juggling it until 2023, and a case could be made that it was because of this community contacting him in the spring of 2023. He goes to the federal government in October. Here, line item number 60 in the incident report. On January 22nd, 2021, Detective Sergeant Marquis has the completed digital forensic report from all of the devices. January 2021. He's got the device, the phone that had 3 images, videos. He's got the evidence to make a charging decision. There it is. January 22nd, 2021, line item 60 says he received a completed digital forensic report disclosing that here's what's on these devices. There's no COVID here. Okay. You then present that to the prosecutor. It doesn't say anywhere here that it was a prosecutor fuck up, by the way. It doesn't say here we presented this January 23rd. I went to the prosecutor and the assistant attorney general and to prosecute this case in Polk County. I went to Polk County and they rejected it. It doesn't say anything from there. It describes what the files were. So if you look at line item number 60, what happens between line item number 60, January 22nd, 2021, he gets a report that says there's CP on this device. And the next update is line item number 68. In October 2023, this case was forwarded to an agent at Homeland Securities. No, he doesn't report. So he goes. So I'm assuming the Attorney General's office could bring charges in Polk County, right? And he doesn't say that he went to Polk County. It says nothing. Where's the update of what did you do with this cell phone that you say had 3 images on it between January 2021 and October of 2023? That's a question that I asked Detective Marquis. Despite my intentions to get an answer, the arrogance of law enforcement in this country and the arrogance of prosecutors in the countries, they won't respond. Good luck getting a response from any of them. But I ask a direct question. What did you do with the phone that you say has this images and videos on it between January of 2021 and October of 2023 before you forwarded it to Homeland Security? That's 30 months, 32 months. What's it, sitting in some locker somewhere? I don't understand it. Provide an answer for me for that. It doesn't say anything about Polk County investigators wouldn't take the case. It doesn't say that Polk County investigators say lay off. It doesn't say any of that. So
I'm just saying that for a while, especially in government buildings, you had to stay 6 feet apart. You were only allowed. A lot of these buildings are crammed, so they did. And I don't know about that specific county, but there were a lot of law enforcement people that were told not to come to work for quite a long time. And that's naturally is going to slow everything down. I don't necessarily think that's what happened here. There's a lot, it seems like, missing, which is why I think that they rolled on somebody. Part of the reason why.
But I mean, they rolled on somebody in Polk County, but what does that have to do with the Attorney General's office? Like, how can Polk County say, "Hey, he's an informant, leave him alone on this evidence"? I guess leave him alone.
Yeah, they do that.
I don't know. And another thing that people need to be aware of, I guess, lessons learned from the predator catching, and this is, mock me all you want, a uniform sort of handbook or an agreement or a confidentiality that, you were in these evidence lockers and Big. I really enjoyed listening to Big Dickhead, who provided a great, dispassionate review of everything, and hardly ever gets on stream. I'd never heard Big Dickhead before, but went over how these evidence lockers work.
Oh yeah, Big Dickhead was in the same one of the same evidence lockers that Ed and I were in way back when. Big Dickhead's been around a very long time. He's one of the first people that I started getting to know around here. He's a good dude.
Is it out of the realm of possibility that if you give me a name of and the addresses and the family members and the places of work of 100 predators, and I can look that up in an evidence locker, that I go back through and could potentially blackmail them, extort them? I mean,
yeah.
I think that you really need to be careful with. This is why, releasing predators' information and stuff is, you want the exposure. Maybe releasing their name is good, but giving out their phone numbers and giving out details of where they work on a mass scale, you really could potentially, in the hands of the
catchers
wrong people.
The catchers we worked for then didn't do that. That one evidence locker that Vic and I were in together, there was only like 5 or 6 people in it. And what's in it is like all of their chat logs, their general information, name and address. If they're a registered sex offender, their records or whatever, that stuff was all in there. So pretty much everything. And yeah, I've thought about that. I wondered if Ed didn't worm his way in, because back in the day, it was really easy. There weren't so many catchers back then, and predator poachers pretty much ruled everything. Yeah, a lot of catchers start out as predator poachers and then eventually drop the name. That's besides the point. But Ed worked with most of them, if not all of them. So he was in everybody's shit. He was like the main guy for looking up information. And when he says that he had information on 400 predators, that is probably true. I know he had a hell of a lot for a hell of a lot of catchers.
Well, in this report, too, line item number 47 on the incident report, it says that Richard, his brother, had consented initially to a polygraph exam, and prior to the exam had withdrawn that consent. I thought that was an interesting note. But
well, he probably talked to a lawyer, and lawyers will tell you not to take one.
Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is that if Ed was able to look up granular cases of other people, and I got something to say too, he looked them up of me. I was going to go back to my DUI. There was a point where the case was dropped. I was never charged formally or indicted for a DUI. Prosecutors dismissed the case before even filing charges against me. And I had told only one person, that was Colfax. And like a day or two later, Colfax was talking to Ed, and somehow my DUI came up in the context of, and Sam got that DUI. Well, Ed generically brought up, that's dismissed. This was 2 days after it got dismissed, or 3 days after it got dismissed. And it's like, wait, what? I didn't tell. So Colfax, I'm talking to Colfax later. Colfax tells me, hey, Ed, did you tell Ed that your case got dismissed? And I'm like, no. Well, it's like he knew about it. And it's like, what? What do you mean he knew about it? He's like, he knew that your case was dropped. The prosecutors didn't charge you. And so it's like I called Ed, and later I had spoken with Ed, and it's like, what were you doing? I mean, I've got people in this community that, people were going to request the body camera footage, people that hated me, that were doxing me, that were going to do all this stuff with my case. None of them did. All these haters and trolls, and at the time, Nunya and Ryan were all displaying my mugshot, and all these threats that people were going to request my records. I really think the only person that actually looked up my records was Ed.
He probably gave it to him.
And
yeah, there's something else that reminds me I'm going to talk about later. But Patriotic, I don't know. That's one of the things that I'm wondering about. If Ed used any of that for a plea deal, I don't know. I've not seen any evidence to suggest he did, but it would not surprise me. And I've wondered about that myself.
But so I was when I talked to Ed next, I was like, how did you know my case was? It's like, oh, I was looking it up to prove that you did, below 0.000 is why he stated. But I think he had my DUI case on one of those things that gets you updated on someone's case, like when there's activity, or he just happened to go on or was checking regularly my case. And I mean, that often, it's like even the most, my biggest detractors, I guess, weren't as invested in looking up my own case. And he said, well, I wanted to show people that you blew a 0.000, and he did. But it's like, why wouldn't you just call me and ask me, and I would have provided you that document? Why did you go straight to the source and get it without even conferring with me? And then you happen to find that my case is dropped and you happen to mention it. And you've got your own problems in your backyard, in your house,
yeah,
with you, and your biggest focus is on looking up my DUI case that you're doing behind the scenes. I didn't.
Yeah,
he did a lot of
dirty. I mean, I somewhat publicly, I did it on my Instagram where I dropped most of the heavy shit. But I spoke openly about Ed and I somewhat falling out, and a lot of it was because he was doing underhanded, dirty shit that I didn't like, and I just couldn't roll with it anymore. LB says, question, Bill, do you see parallels between how Ed initially showed up and got into the DMs with many under the guise of helping catchers with how Nunya has showed up and got involved in the helpers to grift? Yes, LB, I have noticed a lot of parallels with that now that you mention it. I mean, I've thought about that before, but.
Well, yeah, and you had said that some predators got tipped off, and it's like you should have always been careful about who you give access to, with or without Ed. Having people have access to the chat logs that I could go and get. I get 100 chat logs from 100 different predators, and I've got where they've worked, and I've got their wife's name, their husband's name, their boyfriend's name, their girlfriend's name. I got their parents' name. I got their chat logs, and I got all their phone numbers. It's not out of the realm of possibility. They thought they were being careful.
Yeah. They thought they were being careful. You trusted Ed too. Ed had to have access to the evidence logger because it was his responsibility to get all of their information. And sometimes the rest of us would like kind of double check it, do our own thing and make sure they matched up, because sometimes they didn't, because we wanted to make sure that we never ever got the wrong guy. But he had to have access to the evidence locker to be able to upload all of his stuff into it, his part. That's why he was allowed in there.
And Dead Twist, I wish you well. I think at one time you were a big Ed supporter. I'm not sure where you stand now. You haven't really been put on the stop.
He always hated Ed.
Oh, he always hated it? Okay. I remember him yelling at Colfax one time for not being loyal enough, but I don't know if that was in referring to Ed or whatever. But I thought he was modded in Ed's chat, but okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm getting it mixed up. But I wish you well nonetheless, Dead Twist. But also, people forget, people like Dead Twist and others give me a hard time for, I've seen all of this, like, I guess, very short memories around here that being that I distanced myself from some people, including Ed, I was on a catch with Tommy just a month before this breaks, right? As a sign that I don't owe anyone any loyalty anymore, and I had seen a lot of things that I didn't like, and so I get harassed for going on a catch with Tommy because I'm willing to put things aside to go on to catch a predator, because it was a lot of people would be, if they had the means, if they got invited to go on a catch with a catcher, would be able to. And I was excited to be able to share that experience. And I was mocked and trolled for it and hated upon because of it.
I personally myself, I would not have gone with Tommy. I don't give a fuck. I'd go with others, but.
Well, I mean, I thought that it was we don't have to relitigate it, but it was a sign that I had seen a lot of things that I didn't like in the new community, I guess. And I was willing to, since other people seem to be able to put a lot of stuff behind, I could do the same. And, I had said and done a lot of shit about Tommy. He said a lot of shit and did a lot of stuff, said stuff about me. And, I've already given my thoughts about what, that was a very good trip. And that's that. I mean, those are my honest opinions about it. So, and this other idea that I waited to create drama, like Tele has been promoting, that it was a drama. No, it's just, I gave Ed every opportunity to provide some type of explanation and defense. I'm sorry that if people don't like that, well, I'm not sorry for it. I mean, I spent a long time looking at this and thinking about this and talking about this over a period of months, year, and overnight we get evidence, and it's like, I want to spend time reading it. I want to spend time understanding it. And I want to give someone the opportunity to provide any type of explanation if there is one. And he didn't. So, so
can't say he wasn't given the chance. Here's something that's been irritating me all night is I see some of the same people that bitch that Sam had been silent are now bitching that he's not silent. It's like, yeah, you kind of lose a little bit of credibility with me on that.
Well, yeah, it's like, and even whether you like people or not, it's like, okay, someone that we had a relationship with, that we developed a relationship with, turned into all of this substantial amount of evidence tying them to the worst crimes that we can think of, particularly in this community. But other people do get a pass. And you some of you have been pretty going at Clown, and it's like, in some cases it's okay, in some cases it's not. And like I said, I'm not, this is not to bring up Clown at all in a deflection manner. This is all about what we know from this report and what we've heard. But people don't want to speak out against their friends, and we're all guilty of that. It's like, oh, Sam, I'm the only one guilty of it. No, I mean, it's not enjoyable to call out someone that you've known for a while, right? E-friends or not E-friends. But I'll tell you what, it would not have been hard to call out my own brother, who in the best case scenario brought people to my doorstep with guns drawn, 8, 10, 12 detectives. I go to jail for a month. I'm under investigation for 4 years. In Ed's best case scenario, has troves of CP on clouds associated with him. Maybe uses his phone, whatever. And I still live with the guy. I mean, give me a break. And you want to catch predators and you can't catch one in your own house. You can't call one out in your own house. I mean, and that's presenting the best case, like the best light, and he's not even willing to do that. He's not even willing to say, here's where my brother used my phone. Here's the login I never had. Here's who logged in. Again, it's like, unless you come out with some plausible defense and throw your brother, and it's like, I saw someone say, yeah, I would never throw my brother in, but well, I fucking would throw my brother under the bus.
I would too. I don't give a fuck
If
who
I'm
it is.
claiming to be innocent and he's ties me up and ropes me into an investigation that could lead me to going to prison and be labeled a registered sex offender, I'll throw my brother under the bus immediately. And that's where it's like,
and I'm sure that the only reason he hasn't is because, and I think that there are times when Ed is off the drugs, but I don't believe that he's sober all the time. I know too much about what it looks like and the behaviors, and I've heard Ed when he told me he was smoking meth on the phone. He's got a specific laugh when he's high, and I've heard him laugh like that since then. It's just some other things too. But I think that he can't. You pretty much can't get a job anymore if you can't pass a piss test, and if you can't get a job, you can't pay for your own rent. And if you can't do all of these things and live on your own, and you're stuck living with, I'm sure his brother's paying for everything. That's probably why he hasn't thrown him off the side of the bus.
Well, and the idea that you're going to fight predators and you hate predators, but if you're innocent and you claim to be, okay, well then it's A or B. It's like the A/B test. It's A or B. So, okay, you claim to be innocent, then, as he did with his statement in which he provided no backup evidence for why we would consider him to be innocent. And the fact, I do disagree, like with Nevermore, with his reading, Ed is not innocent. I mean, there is a complete difference. This is another thing where innocent means you didn't do what you're accused of doing. It has nothing to do with the court. The court does not determine.
He said innocent in a court of law, which is an accurate statement, but I don't care if the court fucked up. He still had it.
The court does not determine innocence or guilt. Juries rule if the evidence is enough to convict you beyond a reasonable doubt. There are millions and millions of people that are guilty of crimes that never get prosecuted, that never see the courthouse, that never see the light of day. Right.
Well, I mean, there is such a thing as a bench trial where it's just a judge, but either way, somebody fucked up somewhere and he was never presented to a judge or a jury on those charges. So, I mean, legally, he's not guilty, but we know that in reality, he's guilty.
Well, I mean, the innocence isn't determined by the court, though, right? I mean, people spin it that way. It's just, if you get not guilty verdict, that doesn't mean that you weren't still guilty. I mean, OJ being a perfect example, right? So it's like, is OJ innocent? No, OJ's guilty. Was guilty. It's just the jurors decided.
Yeah, he's guilty, but legally, in the eyes of the law, they found him not guilty.
They found him not guilty.
We all know he did it.
That doesn't mean they found him innocent. They just found him not guilty. That's all. Innocent. It's like if you're never, okay, we've got all of these people that, we know that
Edward didn't even get that far for anybody to make that decision, though.
So what, 1 in 10, 1 in 8 sex crimes are prosecuted, or even caught, or even reported. So you got 7 and 8, 9 and 10 cases that are never reported, never prosecuted. All of those people are not innocent. They're still guilty. It's just the court system, the victims didn't come forward to report it. The prosecutors declined to keep, it's like, I mean, the perpetrator, in my case, in a number of victims' cases, my abuser's not innocent. I know her to be guilty. So the fact that a prosecutor didn't want to take the case, the fact that there wasn't enough physical evidence from a case 30 years ago, the fact that, this idea that you can wave this magic wand to say you're innocent because you were never charged. No, I don't think you're innocent. It's just there wasn't enough evidence that a Weasley prosecutor would charge you so that they can have a 99% conviction rate, And that's another thing that you talked about, like the federal government only takes cases where they know almost with 100% certainty that they'll win. So how many cases fall through the cracks where someone is guilty, someone's dirty, someone's a criminal, someone committed criminal acts, but the Weasley spineless prosecutors don't prosecute the case because the potentiality of them losing, so the victim doesn't get any justice. And so that doesn't mean that these people are innocent of these crimes, in my opinion.
No, they absolutely did it. But I'm saying there's not a document, a legal document that said that they were found guilty. Like we all know that they did it. I'm not disputing that. But what I'm saying is, if you go and pull up his record, if you don't look all the way down into it, there's not going to be conviction there for it.
Right, which is the highest bar that one has to meet. Like the civil case, it's beyond the preponderance of the evidence, which is 51%. Beyond a reasonable doubt is like 99%. So just the slightest bit of doubt, the barrier to convict someone is so high, according to our system, that, it's almost impossible. Sometimes there's all these cases that people drop through the cracks, and a lot of guilty people go free, and a lot of people are never charged. And a lot of victims, particularly with these sex cases, a lot of victims don't get justice because of this high barrier to bring forward cases. And I'm just one example of many, many, many kids that are now adults that are dealing with the fact that these barriers are so difficult to overcome. And the process is rather traumatic and difficult to go through. It's like, do you believe me? Yes, we believe me. If you've ever sit in these, and I have, unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, that I encourage everybody that was abused to go and file and report your abuse. But, it's unlikely that cases in historical sexual abuse cases that prosecutors will bring a case or police will bring a charge. And so that does not mean that my perpetrator and my abuser is innocent at all. I mean, they weren't prosecuted. In my mind, they're not innocent. They're guilty as fuck. And we see that with a lot of these cases with these predators that are guilty as fuck that get away with it because they're in a certain district or police are lazy or the evidence, one small thing. It's like, you got all these chat logs here, but a decoy doesn't want to give up their personal information. And so the case dies. Well, we can't, the witness doesn't want to come and the witness doesn't cooperate or whatever, or they don't fly across the country to be interviewed. It doesn't mean the person's innocent. It just means that the system has such high barriers to prosecute, and it makes these cases very difficult. But I hate that term innocent, though. Really the only person that can determine someone's innocent or not is someone who was the victim or not. If this happened to you or it didn't happen to you. And I think the system re-traumatizes a lot of victims by saying, no, we're not going to bring charges. Well, does that mean it didn't happen to me? Does that mean that my abuse, I made it all up? Does it mean I was dreaming it?
That's the thing. That's why so many of these guys get away with it, is because the victims are too traumatized, too scared or threatened to go to court. And that's really the biggest reason from the research that I've done, is why these guys that are charged eventually get away with it. It's the amount of people that do any kind of sexual crime against another person that actually gets convicted. It's in the single digits. It depends on whose study you read, but they're all in the single digits that I've seen.
Yeah. But I mean, I would love to understand the investigatory gaps in this case, and why decisions were made that they were made. And, you know, the shady body camera, one camera, when Ed's in the vehicle, you don't see Ed or his brother being brought out. There's 10, 12 agents there. Who is this Virginia Higgins that someone's communicating with? Who's Facebook messaging this child, this CSAM that got flagged again? As people pointed out, there's more reports from Google and from Facebook coming in after this initial Dropbox investigation, right?
And what little you could hear, and my hearing sucks, so I'm glad somebody translated it for me, but what little you could hear when they're talking to his brother, it sounds like that they're looking for a missing female. Like his brother was the last one to see her at a hotel, you know?
Yeah.
I would like to know more about that too.
Well, I don't think we'll ever get any answers, because if you've done any, you know, dealing with these people, I got no answers, you know, even up to the, you know, not that I was expecting a response at all. Of course not. But the arrogance of law enforcement, you know, I even got the information for the Assistant Attorney General for Criminal Investigations, or I guess they call it the Deputy Attorney General. His name is Josh Reno. I mean, just the arrogance of, we don't owe you we don't owe you anything. Like, who do these people work for? What are they doing? What's their... I mean, a lot of this is like revelation about, for me, it's not new, right? If you follow First Amendment auditors and you understand public records, there's like,
how much I got no use for most of them either.
How much do you have to pay for public records? Oh yeah. We'll give you this report. It costs $2,000. Yeah, you want that? Oh yeah, you want to FOIA that? Perfect. It's gonna cost you $15,000. That's not public records. And I think for a lot of people, this was eye-opening, that the government is very closed-minded. The government is very insular. They don't want you asking questions. They will provide you as minimal, and they will make it a huge hassle for you to get anything. And they don't owe you any answers or any explanations for any decisions that they make. Hey, we got 3 images of CP on someone's device. We didn't charge them. Why not? We don't owe you an answer. Fuck off. We want the documents. No, the case is still open 4 years later. Why? Fuck off. Okay, the case is now closed. There is a lot of that. The case is now closed. Why was this closed with no charges? Fuck off. Why are you even asking? Who are you? That, if you have ever worked, and a few people know that about the government. I'm one of them, you know, as someone that has spent a lot of time dealing with the government in a bureaucratic fashion in my own line of work. Good luck getting answers from them. And, you know, go ahead, have these people, if you actually think that the government is going to bring charges here, I mean, wake up. The government's the ones that fucked up, probably. They fucked up big time. So you want the government that fucked up to make it right. Good luck. And I think it's for those that believe in government so much that the government is perfect. The government makes no mistakes. Oh, believe in bureaucracy. Believe in the government is as corrupt as they come. And public records aren't really public. Information is not accessible to a broader audience. And they'll never tell you why. They'll never tell you why. These are all behind the scenes decisions. And prosecutors are the worst. They're the worst.
Dude, you're roboting real bad. I don't know if it's you or me, but
I don't know. Am I roboting? I didn't think. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now, but you've been roboting pretty bad. I don't know if it's a problem on your end or my end. How about you guys? Are we both roboting, or is it just him? Or is it just me? I don't know.
Well,
We're both clear. All right. Problem on my end. Sorry about that.
yeah. I was just saying the government is the worst. They're the worst. They don't give a shit. They don't owe you an explanation. They'll never provide it. Why didn't you have all the? I mean, I know that. I guess did Predcatcher Drama release this? And you are supposed to have a body camera on every one. Oh, nope, they didn't. Who are you gonna complain to? Is there a complaint department? Who's gonna get fired? They're all long term. You know, it's just like a professor. You know, they got tenure. And this is not a. There's a lot of hardworking, really good government employees that do a lot of different stuff, and there are a lot of good people. I'm not, but I'm saying on a mass scale, a bureaucratic mass scale, the government owes you nothing, and you think they owe you everything. They don't have to tell you.
I worked with a variety of law enforcement, and it's just like anything else. Some of them are great, and others are shady as fuck. In fact, our local law enforcement, they fought having to wear body cameras tooth and nail. I think they have to have them now, but they did not want them. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think so. So in conclusion, Bill, you know, I'm here to accept and take accountability for defending and being one of the most forceful defenders of someone we now learn had CSAM on their own device. And it was a mistake. I was wrong. And if this stream, you know, I'm sure you all will eat it up too. If Ed, and I know that a number of people are concerned about what Ed's reaction will be. I mean, a lot of people shared, they had a relationship with Edward, and that included me. I shared a lot of things with him from a friendship level that was that I now see I should have kept things to myself. And I think that Edward has a chance to take a different tact. I'm not really confident based upon his video where he comes out fighting that he's going to do that. And, you know, if there's going to be this, I mean, he comes out and says he's living his best life and he was glad he stepped away for a week or two. Well, I guess what are we all, chopped liver? The people that
he tried that. It didn't work out. I don't know if he thought that people were just going to let him glide back in. He tried it twice, actually, for people that don't know. He tried to play his premiere, and the chat just went at him, and he ended it really quickly. And then he played it again a few days later, and it was the same. He played it all the way through, I think. But the chat was just brutal to him, as they should be. Like, I don't know if he thought he was just going to glide back in or what his deal was with that.
Well, and Billy brings up another reason. So I'll get back to my final thoughts, but the arrogance. I mean, if you want to make a difference and understand, FBI agents don't wear body cameras. Newsflash. They'll tell you what happened. The 304s, FBI agents, 304s. This is why, you know, you want to talk to. Do you think that they record what you have to say? No. Do they audio record you? Do they? No. If you talk to the FBI, if you talk to them, they'll tell you what you said in their report. It's a 304 or whatever. It's a handwritten statement of their memory of what you said. FBI doesn't wear body cameras. HSI agents don't wear body cameras. ICE agents don't. The arrogance, the entitlement that they have too.
Yeah, so there's a lot of reforms. I worked with the FBI exactly one time, and never again. We were looking for the same guy, and they hit me up, and they're like, "Hey, we want to exchange information." So I gave them a restaurant to meet at. They came to, you know, my town or whatever, and they did, to their credit, they did buy lunch. Of course, the taxpayers actually bought it, but anyway, I handed them my file, and I was expecting them to just hand me theirs. They kind of glanced through mine real quick, and I saw them remove something from the file that they handed me. So I know that they had more than I did. I think they just wanted to catch him first. But The file they gave me, there wasn't very much more in there that I didn't already have. And I don't know what was in the file that they kept, but I gave them a little bit more than what they gave me.
And yeah, I'm sure. So, you want to know why all the people didn't have body cameras, and it's a policy that they violate the policy all day, every day. There's no policy that they won't violate, and they realize there's no accountability, there's no responsibility. So, I think that a 302, okay, a 302. So, if you talk to an FBI agent, it's not going to be recorded. There will be no cameras in the room. They'll put in a 302 what you talked about, and their memory and recollection of what you told them is considered the final transcript to not be displayed. So I said that I went to lunch at McDonald's at 12 p.m. yesterday to an FBI agent. It's not recorded. There's no video thing. They don't have a body camera. Arrogant, sort of entitled. Maybe it's for national security reasons, whatever. The next day they write the report and say he went to a restaurant sometime in the middle afternoon at some point. So they can reinterpret what you said, and how do you remember what one said? Their memory of and their reinterpretation of what you said is what becomes a matter of record. So,
or they'll beat the shit out of somebody for 6 hours, and then oh yeah, he confessed. Well, yeah, he confessed, but what you didn't write down is that he was laying on the floor and barely conscious when he confessed because you told him what to say. That kind of shit happens.
So in final thoughts, I do, I don't consider Ed a friend. I did try to still be one to perform a wellness check on him after this came out in the immediate aftermath, giving him every opportunity to provide something, to provide, if he is innocent, to provide a defense that he could articulate. He didn't do it. And I'm not going to go down the road and I didn't, of providing defenses for him, if there are any. And I don't think there are many, if any, defenses. He can't be considered a friend. He left a lot of people defending him while he sat and watched, while he had these documents, or he could get them, and he knew what was going to be coming, and he let people go. And
that reminds me of something I was going to say earlier. He was very ungrateful for those of us that did stand up for him, and stabbed me in the back quite a few times. But something that pissed me off was all these people that came at him and doxed him and called his family and stuff. Vic, Nunya, and whoever else. All of a sudden, they're good. You know what I mean? And these same people did the same shit to me. Now I can stop a beef. I don't want to beef with anybody. But if you've done that, you're not going to be hanging out. You know what I mean? It's just, it just struck me the wrong way. I cannot beef with you, and I will allow you in my chat. Maybe there are some that will never be back here. But yeah, just the way he just fucking, and I know that he was giving them information to get them off of his back. I don't know what, but I know from a source that it happened. And I don't know it might have been your DUI stuff. I don't know. But I do know that Ed was giving them information to get them off of his back.
Yeah. And so, I mean, this is, I think there's a lot of, like I said, I did make this my circus. I did make this my monkeys. And I think that it was wrong of me to put out sort of that tone deaf, I don't owe you anything. And I really don't necessarily owe anyone anything, but the fact that I made it such a point to defend someone that betrayed us all, and I think to bring some closure to my own thoughts about it. And, the fact that CSAM is so damaging to the people that are depicted in it, and the fact that someone would deal in such a manner, in such a hypocritical way, that is a predatory behavior. And
yeah, and people making this a victory lap and celebrating it, I think, are pretty fucking disgusting, because there are victims. I mean, I wonder quite often, are those, how old are the victims now? Are they still alive? Are they still being, treated that way? I just have a lot of questions.
yeah. And to sort of walk away from this and say, I'm going to live my best life and I'm not going to be in this community much longer. And when you do dump a video, it's to trash you and trash Jeff. And, it's just, I still would like to put Ed on the spot on a number of things. And whether he's honest with his answer, whether if anybody listens, I did want to wait until PCD came out with her documentary, which I got some inside that she was going to do that. So,
that shit that Ed said about me, he defended me on that shit. In fact, he called out, I don't want to name one of them, but like he called out 2 females that I used to talk to. I got sick of their bullshit. I blocked them. They tried to flip around and say it was the other way. No, he defended me on that shit, and he called them both liars and told people at one point how it really was. And that's what he fucking came back with. I'm like, oh yeah, Bill did this, but he knows it's bullshit. Now, something that kind of struck me, it surprised me, because like he knows worse shit about me than that. And I don't know if he's planning on something else later on. I don't know. But I just thought it was a weak thing to come at me with. I think it was him trying to come back like that was weak anyway, but yeah, he knows more. He knows shit that's true about me,
Well, and down to Jersey, I know that Jersey is prepared to provide a lot of resources and financial resources to get people prosecuted. And I just, my mind sticks with victims of adult victims of childhood abuse. And, if, my focus has always been there in the things that, not in this community. I mean, people have come from this community, but the people that I've helped and I've raised money for, it's not really, they're actionable ways to help victims, like provide assistance to get to file a police report, or, a 2-night stay. You were abused, and you can't really report a lot of these things remotely for the most part. You've got to go in and make a statement, and you've got to swear to it, and you've got to do it in person for some of these cases. Getting someone transportation costs to get there, and maybe paying for the first 2 or 3 psychiatric evaluations and support. And, I'm not saying that the punishment, but I just don't see any avenue. I mean, the federal government won't take the case. The state obviously did something between January of 2021 and October of 2023. If they would have filed something, they would have filed something in that period of time. And, and then
this shit over here really has nothing to do with predator catching anymore.
Correct.
People like to front that it is, but we have fallen way far from that, especially over the last year. You got to look at who started doing panels within the last year that made it worse. Not that it was great, but yeah, we have fallen far from that tree. I'm convinced that Uh, I'm actually convinced that the majority of the people that hang out on our panels, and I'm including mine too. I'm not saying I'm above it. I just think the majority of the people that watch us don't really give a fuck about kids anymore. Because if I'm live and a catch happens, like I'll say, hey, you guys can go watch the catch, and somebody will put a link to it in a chat. A few people leave, but not most of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just I think it's pretentious to say that that's what we're about anymore.
Yeah. So, you know, in my closing thoughts, you know, this was a big lesson for me on my own conduct and my own, you know, being able to, that I put myself on the line for somebody else who was obviously untrustworthy, and also tying in that person's brother, you know, who clearly is a disgusting person, you know, as well, in addition to, and um, it's something that I'm going to learn from. And I was wrong to have gone so hard, and I can commit to being a better person going forward. So, Bill, thank you so much for letting me up tonight. I'll be listening to your stream as it goes on.
All right, man.
Thanks for letting me share my thoughts.
All right.
Peace out. Take care.
You pay me every month, so I really had no choice. But all right, man.
I do. In many different ways, I pay you, Bill. You don't all the time. Cash is king, but for you, other forms of payment works too. I know.
Hey, I ain't picky. All right, Jersey. Yeah.
Bill,
We've been poking around. All right, man. Yeah, Jersey, we've been poking around. People have been looking at different avenues, people that are smarter than me about this stuff, which isn't hard. Um, yeah, man, I don't know if throwing money at the problem is a solution. You know, what's going on, Section 15? All right, does anybody else want to? Oh, I guess I need to put out a link, don't I? If anybody else wants to come up, I'm not gonna do the all night Ed thing, but I'll throw out the link one time if I can remember how. What the hell? It's not letting me post a comment. Let me start all over again. Hold on. There we go. All right. I know somebody earlier was asking me if she could come up, but I kind of wanted to keep it just me and Sam so that he could get his point across. But if you're out there, you're welcome to come up, or I'll give it a little bit. If she comes up, shit's going to get wild. But I don't know if she's still listening. I saw people asking me questions while we were talking, and I missed a lot of them. And I did miss a lot of the chat. So if I didn't acknowledge your question, it's either just because I didn't want to interrupt things or I don't fucking like you. We have literal crickets. Another thing too is I was in the car part of the time. I was trying to I'm not like Ryan. I will not read chat and drive at the same time. other than the occasional glance. Yeah, Jeff will always be a scumbag, and yeah, he's using this as a way to slide back in again. I don't think he knows what a lolcow is. Actually, he probably does. He just doesn't care. He'll take any kind of attention he can get. Jeff's last drunk doxing stream. I don't watch him. I didn't know he did another. Who did he dox this time? Was that really Tommy and Sam's? I don't know. I was listening to it, but you know how shit happens all at the same time. Some shit came up, so I was able to listen, but I wasn't watching the chat. All right, person. I don't think she's listening. I haven't seen her chat for a while, but if you're out there and you're the one that I talked to earlier today about coming up here, we can do that now, or we can schedule it for another time, or however you want to work it. That's another thing is I don't want to. You know what? I don't really want to get off on the Tommy shit, but this shit with Edward does not change anything he's done. He's still going through a child abuse case. And all the domestic violence shit he's had. He seemed a little tipsy. No way. No way. You're so lost right now. Yeah, you're lucky, section. Consider yourself lucky. It's just a bunch of I mean, you know about the Edward situation. It was just Sam giving his because he's been silent or quiet the whole time, and people have been begging for his answer, and he did a stream earlier, and I went live with him right after. And then of course I saw people that were yelling for him to give his side to same people that were yelling for him to give his side and yelling, screaming because he was quiet, and they were in here telling him to shut up and stuff. So you know what I mean? There's not a lot of credibility in that. And what's up, community cardio? I saw your message earlier, but I got slammed with messages because of Sam things before I went live, and people were still messaging me while I'm live, and I can't answer them. I'll have to get back with all of you later. Some of you might have to wait till tomorrow. Yes, more of the average everyday full butter, absolutely. And I just want to gloat again that everything that I said was going to happen with Nanya and Bobby Joe and all them, it happened. Pretty much exactly how I said it was going to. It's funny how they all called me a liar when they were all shacked up together, but now they're all saying the same shit about each other that I said about them. and still calling me a piece of shit. But I think it's funny. And I also think it's funny that people hitting me up in DMs trying to get me to like trying to sway me over onto their side, which is not going to happen. I don't like any of them. Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way, Jamie. When I'm done with somebody, I'm just done, and it's pretty hard to get back in. I got no clue what that means, community cardio. Yeah, Jamie, I don't want a beef with anybody. I'm just done sometimes. I stopped watching NTF, except I was in there for a little bit yesterday, the day before, and Clown was up there gaslighting everybody, trying to act like he's not a piece of shit. And a whole lot of people feel like I do because they like pretty much anybody that has professed themselves to be sea monkeys has stopped going over there. And I do not tell them what to do. We just all kind of see things the same way. Yeah, Patriotiac's been pretty busy. We're gonna get her up here one of these days, hopefully soon. But she's been doing some really cool things, like in federal court and stuff. I watch a lot of uh like court, like Judge Simpson, and I forget the rest of them, but I watch a lot of that kind of stuff. And sometimes you see a lawyer, and you're like, how the fuck did that person become a lawyer? Like they've got no common sense and they're dumber than shit. And then we see these laws, especially when it comes to like them making it easier on chomos and stuff. Like, who the fuck passes these laws? Like, how does it even get written? Um, but she has the answer to that, and it's because it goes all the way back to the Bar Association. Patriotic, you're welcome to come up here. You can explain this better than I can. But it goes all the way back to the Bar Association and how they stack the deck. Like, if they don't like how you think, they'll just tell you flunked your bar exam. Or if your political views or whatever align with them, they'll give you a law license just so that they can stack the deck later. And it's been going on for a very long time. Like the Bar Association is a fucking scam. Yeah, Jamie. Exactly. I mean, they've actually not just kept things, they've actually made things worse. I always thought that BAR meant Browning Automatic Rifle, but maybe I'm wrong on that one. Yeah, she has some people in power running scared, like they're retiring early and uh, some other stuff. Whenever you're ready, Patriotic. I don't really know how much longer I'm going to have this channel because I keep getting in trouble with YouTube. So, I don't want to rush you, but the sooner the better. Oh yes, the smell of gunpowder in the morning does something for me. Yeah, they do the same stuff like with the teachers union. They infiltrated that a long time ago, and now they're pushing gender identities on fucking third graders. Tell me that's not some messed up stuff. It only takes a handful of weirdos to control stuff. And yeah, it is getting worse. That's Patriotic is working to expose this stuff. I'm surprised she hasn't been taken out yet, although there might have been an attempt. They gave us the right to vote, which originally was a good thing. The founding fathers had a good idea because they came from tyranny. But we've fallen a long way. This has been in the works for a very long time. Like she can prove that the bar association is a fraud. See, that's the thing. When a legitimate poll is taken, most people are against teaching our kids about being transgenders and furries in school. But somehow this shit seems to get passed and put into motion. It's just because they have a few people in the right places. That's all it is. Oh fuck! Hang on, let me check this text real quick and see if the other one still. Oh no, that's not her. But Jamie, that's a perfect example of how they're getting away with everything. They have people in the right places. That's it. The shit's not about the people anymore. It's about business deals and promoting weird shit that we don't really tolerate. Tim Walz was exposed for stolen valor this week. I don't watch the news, so I don't know anything about that. Like, was he never in the military, or was he exaggerating what he did? Or yeah, Patriotic has proof of. I think it's in the billions now, billions of dollars that have been ripped off, and she does have some higher up people running scared. Yeah, the Civil War wasn't really fought about slavery. It was fought about states' rights. Back when people had enough heart and grit to stand up for what they wanted. And don't think that another civil war can't happen, because it can. Even in the mid 1800s, people thought that they had the what's the word I'm looking for? The decency to not kill each other on our own soil, but they quickly found out wrong. They thought that they were more civilized than that, and turns out we weren't. All right, yo, I'm all out of shit to talk about, and I don't guess. I don't know if the original person wants to go back live after this. I might. Um, but when that happens, if it happens, this shit's gonna get hot pretty quick. So be advised. All right, yo, hang in there. You can't live in the past, but I like to remember the community for what it used to be and not what it is now. All right, yo, take it easy.